Hello, my name is Matt Bird, and welcome to the PublishU Podcast, where we feature the real life stories of authors from around the world. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Jess Hymus-Gant from Wales in the UK, who has written a book called Treasures from the Thin Place. Jess, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Great to be
Uh,
here.
and this is your second book, of course, and the first book, bestseller, Moments in Mummydom. Is it 9 children you have? Some of your own, some kind
All
of
together,
spectrum?
yeah. So we've got four. I've got four grown-up stepsons, who are all earning, which is the main thing. And then we've got a five at home. So yeah,
Oh,
nine
9 kids. So if ever there was a mum who was qualified to write about mummydom, as you've called it, then you certainly did, and you had a great success and still are with your first book, Mummydom, Moments in Mummydom, sorry, and now we've got Treasures from the Thin Place, which we're looking forward to exploring today. But why don't you tell our listeners who have not met you before, tell us a bit about you, apart from the fact you've got 9 kids.
So I am living in North Wales in a place called Rhyl, which is a beautiful coastal town, and we're surrounded by stunning mountains in the sea. Um, I was not always here, so I was a missionary child. So my parents were working in Eastern Europe, and I was born in Vienna. And then we had quite a nomadic childhood of traveling around different places. So I get cabin fever if I stay here for too long. I need to get out of the country every now and then just to kind of remember my roots. um, and then I basically arrived back in North Wales after having been studying and living and working abroad, and very clearly had a call to stay here. And so I've been working here for a social justice charity for the last 27 years. I do that part time now because obviously, with the mixture of the ages of the children, it's difficult to kind of juggle everything. So yeah, so we have so in my spare time I like to paint. So I'm an artist.
Oh,
I
really?
write.
What do you like working with in your art?
I like
Chisel.
working with acrylics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So although I have just kind of I always run out of things to ask for my like birthday presents. So I asked for some colored pencils. So I'm going to try and have a go at colored pencils and stuff as well. And I tend to do landscapes. So now landscapes and flowers, but now I'm going to try and do some animals too. So yeah. One of the things
Fantastic.
I'm focusing on. Yeah, and I just like to, I've got two dogs and cats, so they keep me busy as well. So I like to get out in the hills and walk.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, Jess, what made you want to write a second book of all things?
So when I actually when I came to write my first book, I had two books in my heart.
Mm,
One was Moments in Mummydom, and one was this one, although I didn't have a name for it at that stage.
yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to write two books, but I wasn't sure which one to do first. So I plumped for the Mummydom one first, and then just felt a stirring to do another one about a year or so ago. And it happened to be at the same day that I'd kind of thought, when am I going to do this? That I got a message from you, Matt, saying, how's your second book coming along? So I was like, okay, I'm going to take that as a sign. Happy with it. So yeah. So
Oh,
really that's why I've done it. I kind of had it in my head that I wanted to do two books by the time I was 50. So I handed this one in, the manuscript in, just after I turned 51. So I kind of did it. So
you certainly did. So, if your first book's all about motherhood and mummydom, as you called it, what's this book, Treasures from the Thin Place? What's the big message in this book?
so I don't know about you, but I find so I'm a Christian, and I find that I have places that I go where I can feel closer to God.
Okay.
But as I have traveled, I think I've realized that actually, because of carrying God within us through the Holy Spirit, we have to just learn to find those thin places in our heart, really. A thin place is a place where you feel closer to God, a place that where you feel that heaven meets earth. And there have been times in my life where heaven has met earth in terms of the way that God has intervened and sent angels and sent healing and sent the right people at the right time. And so it's a reflection on that. So whereas moments in Mummydom, I always say was fictional, based heavily on fact, um, this one is factual, and
Yeah.
it's my story really of the ways that I've done life so far.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that concept though, Jess, because I agree with you that there are places in the world where you have a greater sense of connection to your soul, connection to the divine, connection to the other in life.
Yeah.
But I love the way you phrased that because actually it's also about the thin places in your own heart and the
Yeah.
spaces within yourself where you can feel a greater connection to your soul and otherness in life. I mean, I'm reflecting for me. I mean, I'm in Sicily at the moment. This is one of the places where I feel a greater connection to my soul. I mean, there are lots of reasons for that. Um, but where are you encouraging people in this book to find the thin places in their heart? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Do you know, I think well, I think there's a couple of things. So I think, like, if we're not careful, it's very easy to busy ourselves, and the world is very noisy, and there's always stuff there on social media, on our phones, on our laptops, our devices, and it's difficult to we need to increasingly make sure that we get time to really connect with ourselves, but also with God, our creator God, and let him speak and just quieten our hearts and hear his voice. And that doesn't always have to be in great times of prayer, or it can be as simple as being in the garden, doing the garden with nothing on in the background. And or it can be walking along and having in a nice place and seeing. I think God is always speaking to us, and it's about learning to hear his voice. And in my book, I basically show how I have heard that, and I'm not anyone special. So God is always wanting to communicate with all of us. He's a relational God. And so um, it there's times where I've heard him very clearly tell me to do things or ask me to pray, and there's been real answers to prayer that I've seen. And so I guess it's about learning to quieten ourselves and just make space each day to just really get time to just hear him and tune our hearts to him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So a thin place, as you called it, a place where we can connect with our soul and God and otherness in life, could be a geographical place, but you're also saying it could be an activity like walking in the garden. It could be for some people silence and for other people noise. Um, I find that quite fascinating.
I mean, if you look at biblical figures, when you think about David, a lot of his time was, spent as a shepherd, wasn't it? And he would have been out on the hillside and having all the muck and the mess of sheep and trying to like herd sheep into it here, there, and everywhere. And actually, a lot of the Psalms were written when he was out. And I think God can inspire us, and we can be inspired by what we see around us. And that can cause us to then want to create or want to do stuff in our lives just by being inspired by what we see around us. But also I think that I think as many different people as there are as many different ways that God communicates, because we are all unique and individual. And so I think that what works for one person doesn't work for another, and it's about learning the way, it's understanding that you as a unique person delight the heart of God because you fill his heart in a way that no one else does. and it's learning to know how to just connect with him ourselves. So yeah.
Yeah. And why do you call it a thin place? What?
Because it's where the veil between heaven and earth is thin, and where I'm in communion with his Holy Spirit, or him, more. And in my life, that has happened where I don't want to give the whole story away. So,
Okay, okay.
but yeah, there are times where, like I was in Mexico, and at the time it didn't feel like a thin place, but looking back, it really was. Where I actually had, I met a little girl, and she came and gave me a piece of paper with a verse on it, and actually, yeah, you have to buy the book to find out
Okay.
about that. Yeah, but yeah, so that's why I call it a thin place, because it's a place where I've met God. Yeah.
Amazing. And Jess, even though you'd done the PublishU Writing My Book course previously for doing writing moments in Mummydom, you did it again for this book.
I did.
Why? Because you knew all the knowledge. Why do the course again?
Because I need the accountability when I'm writing, and I find doing the course, you're alongside other writers that are going through that process, and it's really helpful to get the peer support, um, and also to back your ideas around, against other people. But also, there's something for me in knowing that I'm not the only one that's, committing a large part of my time to writing,
Yeah.
and just kind of gaining encouragement from that, I think. So if I try and do it myself, there is too many competing factors. I need the accountability of, you checking in with me to say, how's it gone this week? Or how many words have you written? Or, and just
Yeah.
having that accountability is how I work. So yeah, some people are really good at writing, but I am not, unless I have somebody making me pin down and do it. So that's why I did it again. Yeah.
Fantastic. And when you came to write your second book, what was the greatest obstacle you felt you faced?
Do you know what? I think because this book is so much more from my heart, um, actually, it was quite um, it was quite a thing to go back over, times of my life that have been painful, or almost getting closure, but also, you process it at the time, but then with hindsight, you process it again, and you live through some of those emotions again. And so I don't think I was fully prepared for that. And so there were times where, especially where, I was writing about my mum passing away, and where it was quite a drenching thing emotionally, it really took it out of me. And so then just realizing that I needed to kind of be kind to myself, and step back and just allow myself, and also just the way that it triggers, then, oh, maybe that's why I've been like this. So I found it was kind of like therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, do you know what I mean, in a way? Yeah.
Totally. I mean,
Because
this is why people journal, isn't it? Because
yeah,
journaling, writing, is a great way of processing our emotions, our thoughts, our experiences,
yeah.
traumatic things, joyous things.
And I've always journaled. So I guess, yeah, the difference with this is it's hindsight, whereas journaling is very much in the moment, isn't it? And but I did rely on quite a lot of my journals to write this, because I had written over the years. And so it was funny to kind of go back and see the patterns that I hadn't spotted at the time. And then, and finally finally justify the fact that I've kept all these journals for all these years without throwing them away. It was like, I knew they'd come in handy sometimes. So yeah.
Why do you need to justify keeping journals, Jess? Do they take up a lot of space?
They do take up an awful lot of space. Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So I think
amazing.
that was the biggest thing with this one, was I wasn't fully prepared for quite how heart wrenching it would be, in terms of, not because it's all sad, it isn't in any way, but just because of the emotion that was there, and
Yeah.
living through the emotion again. So yeah.
But it's really beautiful to hear, and it shouldn't be underestimated. Writing about such personal things. It's in some ways you relive some of the emotions you had when it actually happened to you, and this is yeah, is part of the author's journey, isn't it?
Yeah, and and also I think with any book that we read that's like a autobiography, or there might be, although the exact same thing hasn't happened to another person, you know, other people might be able to relate to bits of it, and it just sometimes helps to see how somebody else has dealt with that, and just to kind of take in a bit more, you know way of coping with situations. So yeah, maybe there'll be something that might touch the hearts of people. And also, what I'm wanting to really show is just the way that I have had such healing from really being vulnerable with, in my case, with God, and allowing him to really touch the deeper areas of my heart that have needed just to get bad things out, and then proper healing has come, and how that hasn't just happened in an instant. It's happened over many years. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Jess, and thank you all for listening to the PublishU podcast, where we feature the genuinely real stories of authors from around the world. If you're interested in becoming an author like Jess, please do visit our website, www.publishu.com, publishu.com. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, please make sure you subscribe for more. Thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye for now.